The street was buzzing with people, cars honking, and the smell of hot dogs from a nearby cart. Everyone rushed past, their eyes glued to their phones or staring straight ahead. No one noticed the homeless woman sitting on the cracked sidewalk, her back against a dirty brick wall. Her name was Lila, and she was invisible to the world. Her clothes were torn, her hair tangled, and her hands clutched a small, tattered notebook. But then, something impossible happened. Before we begin the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Please subscribe to my channel for more sweet videos like this. Let the story continue. Lila's notebook began to glow. A soft, golden light spilled from its pages, bright enough to make the people nearby stop dead in their tracks. The light wasn't normal, it pulsed like a heartbeat, warm and alive. Lila's eyes widened as she stared at the notebook, her hands shaking. The crowd gasped, stepping back, their phones now pointed at her. The light grew brighter. And then, boom! A wave of energy exploded from the notebook, knocking people off their feet. The street went silent. Everyone stared at Lila, who was still sitting there, clutching the glowing book. But that wasn't the strangest part. The notebook floated out of her hands, hovering in the air. Words began to appear in the sky above, written in golden light. The truth will be revealed. The crowd whispered, some scared, some amazed. Lila's heart raced. She didn't understand what was happening, but she knew one thing. Her life was about to change forever. What was in that notebook? Why was it glowing? And why was everyone suddenly looking at the woman they had ignored for years? The answers were coming, but not yet. Lila wasn't always homeless. 3 years ago, she had a small apartment, a job at a bookstore, and a smile that could light up a room. She loved books, especially old ones with worn pages and mysterious stories. But life wasn't kind to Lila. Her mom got sick, and the hospital bills piled up. Lila sold everything she owned to pay for medicine, but it wasn't enough. Her mom passed away, and Lila's world fell apart. She lost her job, then her home, and soon she was on the streets, just another face in the crowd no one cared about. The city of Brightville was busy and bright, but it was also cold. People walked past Lila every day, pretending she wasn't there. She sat on the same corner of Main Street, near a coffee shop with big windows. Sometimes, she'd watch families inside, laughing over hot chocolate, and her heart would ache. She wasn't angry at them, she just wished someone would see her, really see her. Lila's only friend was her notebook. It wasn't much, just a small leather-bound book she'd found in an alley one rainy night. Its pages were blank, but Lila felt drawn to it, like it was meant for her. She started writing in it, pouring out her thoughts, her dreams, her pain. The notebook was her secret, her safe place. She wrote about the people she saw, the stories she made up in her head, and sometimes strange things she couldn't explain, like dreams of a golden light or a voice whispering words she didn't understand. One day, a boy named Max stopped in front of her. Max was 9, with messy brown hair and curious eyes. He was on his way to school, his backpack bouncing as he walked. Most kids ignored Lila, but Max was different. He saw her sitting there, hugging her notebook, and he smiled. "Hey," Max said, kneeling down. "What's that book?" Lila blinked, surprised. No one had talked to her in weeks. "It's just my notebook," she said softly. "I write stuff in it." "Cool. Like stories?" Max's eyes lit up. He loved stories, especially ones about heroes and magic. "Something like that," Lila said, a small smile tugging at her lips. She hadn't smiled in a long time. Max reached into his backpack and pulled out a granola bar. Here, he said, holding it out. You look hungry. Lila's eyes stung with tears. It was such a small thing, but to her, it was everything. Thank you, she whispered, taking the bar. See you tomorrow, Max said, waving as he ran off to school. That night, Lila wrote about Max in her notebook. She wrote about his kind eyes and how he made her feel human again. But as she wrote, something strange happened. The pen in her hand felt warm, and the words on the page shimmered for a second, like they were alive. Lila rubbed her eyes, thinking she was tired. But deep down, she felt a spark of something hope, maybe, or something bigger. Days turned into weeks, and Max kept stopping by. He'd bring Lila snacks, tell her about school, and ask about her notebook. Lila started to look forward to his visits. They were the brightest part of her day, but not everyone was happy about it. Max's mom, Sarah, noticed him talking to Lila. One morning, she pulled him aside. Max, you can't keep talking to that woman, she said, her voice stern. She's not safe. She's nice, Max protested. Her name's Lila, and she's not scary. She's just lonely. Sarah sighed. I know you want to help, but you don't know her. People like that, they're trouble. Max didn't understand. Lila wasn't in trouble. She was kind and sad, and she had stories in her notebook that sounded like magic. But he didn't argue with his mom. He just nodded and promised to be careful. That same day, something else happened. Lila was sitting on her corner, writing in her notebook, when a man in a fancy suit walked by. He was tall, with slicked back hair and a shiny watch. He glanced at Lila, and his eyes narrowed. Lila didn't notice as she was too focused on her writing. But the man stopped, watching her for a moment too long. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. She's still here, he said in a low voice. And she's got that book. We need to do something. Lila didn't hear him, but she felt a chill run down her spine. She looked up, and the man was gone, blending into the crowd. Her heart beat faster. Something felt wrong, but she didn't know what. That night, Lila had a dream. In it, she was standing in a field of golden light. The notebook was in her hands, and it was glowing, just like in her dream. A voice whispered, "The truth is coming. Be ready." Lila woke up gasping, her hands clutching the notebook. The dream felt so real, like a warning. The next morning, Max didn't show up. Lila waited, her eyes scanning the crowd, but he was nowhere. She tried not to worry, maybe he was sick or had a school trip. But deep down, she felt uneasy. Max was her only friend, and without him, the world felt colder. Around noon, a group of teenagers walked by. They were loud, laughing, and tossing a soda can between them. One of them, a boy with a red cap, noticed Lila. "Hey, look at the homeless lady," he shouted, pointing. The others laughed. "Bet she's got nothing but trash in that book," another said. Lila hugged the notebook tighter, her cheeks burning. She wanted to disappear. The teens kept taunting her, and a small crowd gathered, watching but doing nothing. Lila's heart sank. This was her life ignored or mocked, never seen. Then, something snapped inside her. She stood up, her legs shaky but her voice steady. "Leave me alone," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The teens froze, surprised. The boy in the red cap smirked. "Ooh, she talks," he said, stepping closer. "What's in that book, huh? Your diary?" Lila's hands trembled, but she didn't back down. "It's mine," she said, "and it's not for you." The crowd murmured. Some people looked ashamed, others curious. The teens laughed, but they backed off, bored now that Lila wasn't an easy target. As they left, Lila sat down, her heart pounding. She'd never stood up for herself like that before. It felt good, but it also scared her. What if they came back? That afternoon, Lila noticed something odd. The notebook felt heavier, like it was carrying a secret. She opened it, and her breath caught. The words she'd written about Max were glowing faintly, just like in her dream. She slammed the book shut, her mind racing. Was she imagining things, or was the notebook special? As the sun set, the street grew quiet. Lila sat alone, the notebook in her lap. She was about to open it again when she heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps. She looked up, and her blood ran cold. The man in the fancy suit was back, and this time, he wasn't alone. Two other men stood with him, their faces hard and their eyes locked on her. "Lila," the man said, his voice smooth but dangerous. "We need that notebook. Hand it over and no one gets hurt." Lila's heart stopped. How did he know her name? And why did he want her notebook? She clutched it to her chest, her mind screaming to run, but her legs wouldn't move. The man stepped closer, his smile cold. "You don't know what you're holding," he said. "But I do, and I'm not leaving without it." The street was empty now, the crowd gone. Lila was alone, facing three men who looked ready to do anything to get what they wanted. Her hands shook, but the notebook felt warm, almost alive. And then, just as the man reached for her, the notebook glowed again brighter than ever. What happened next would change everything. The golden light erupted from Lila's notebook, so bright it lit up the dark street like a sunrise. The man in the fancy suit stumbled back, shielding his eyes. His two companions froze, their tough faces twisting with fear. Lila's heart pounded as the notebook pulsed in her hands, warm and alive. The light wasn't just bright, it felt powerful, like it was protecting her. The men shouted, but their voices were drowned out by a low hum coming from the book. Then something even stranger happened. The light formed to shape a glowing figure, tall and shimmering, like a person made of gold. It stood between Lila and the men, its face hidden but its presence strong. The man in the suit gasped, his cool confidence gone. "It's real," he whispered, his voice shaking. The stories were true. Lila stared, her mouth open. She didn't know what was happening, but she felt safe, like the glowing figure was on her side. The men backed away, tripping over each other. "We'll be back," the leader shouted, his voice cracking. "You can't keep it forever." They ran into the shadows, their footsteps fading. The glowing figure turned to Lila. It didn't speak, but she felt its warmth, like a hug from someone she'd known forever. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the figure melted back into the notebook. The light dimmed, and the street was quiet again. Lila sat there, clutching the book, her mind racing. What was that? Who were those men? And why did they want her notebook so badly? She looked down at the book, its leather cover now cool and ordinary. But Lila knew it wasn't ordinary, not anymore. She needed answers, but she was scared. The street felt too open, too dangerous. She grabbed her small bag of belongings and slipped into an alley, her heart still pounding. She had to figure out what was going on before those men came back. The next morning, Lila woke up in a hidden corner behind a dumpster. The alley smelled of old food and rain, but it was safer than the open street. She hugged the notebook to her chest, her only comfort. She hadn't slept much. Every noise made her jump, thinking the men were back. But the notebook hadn't glowed again, and no one had found her. Lila's stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since Max's granola bar 2 days ago. She thought of Max, his kind smile and curious eyes. Where was he? Why hadn't he come back? She missed him, but she was also worried. What if those men had seen him talking to her? What if they'd done something to him? She shook her head, trying to push the thought away. Max was probably fine, just busy with school. But Lila couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She needed to find him, to make sure he was okay, and she needed to understand the notebook. It wasn't just a book anymore, it was something powerful, maybe even dangerous. Lila opened the notebook carefully, half expecting it to glow again. The pages looked normal, filled with her messy handwriting. She flipped through, reading bits of her old entries about her mom, dreams of a better life, and notes about Max. But then she stopped. There was a new page, one she didn't remember writing. The words were in her handwriting, but they felt different. Lila's breath caught. She hadn't written this. Or had she? Her dreams, the glowing figure, the strange minute was all connected to the notebook. But how? And what truth was she supposed to find? She closed the book and stood up, her legs shaky but her mind made up. She couldn't stay hidden forever. She had to go back to her usual spot on Main Street. Maybe Max would show up. Maybe she'd find a clue about the notebook. Or maybe those men would come back, and she'd have to face them. Whatever happened, Lila wasn't invisible anymore. The notebook had made sure of that. The street was busy as ever, with people rushing to work and school. Lila sat in her usual spot, the notebook hidden under her jacket. She felt exposed, like every passing glance was a threat. But she also felt different, stronger, like the notebook's light had left a piece of itself inside her. A few people gave her curious looks, whispering to each other. Lila overheard bits of their talk. Was she the one with the light? I saw it on my phone. Is she dangerous? Her stomach twisted. The glowing notebook had gone viral. People had recorded it, and now the whole city was buzzing about the homeless woman with the magic book. Lila didn't want attention, she just wanted answers. Around noon, a familiar face appeared. Max! He was running down the sidewalk, his backpack bouncing. Lila's heart lifted, but then she saw his face. He looked scared, his eyes wide and his cheeks pale. Lila! He called, skidding to a stop in front of her. Are you okay? I saw the video. Your book, it glowed. Lila grabbed his arm, pulling him close so no one could hear. Max, I'm fine, but you need to be careful. Some men came after me last night. They want the notebook. Max's eyes got even wider. Men? Like bad guys? Lila, what's going on? I don't know, she admitted. But the notebook, it's special. It did something last night. Something big. It scared them off. Max looked at the bulge under her jacket where the notebook was hidden. Can I see it? He asked, his voice a mix of fear and excitement. Lila hesitated. She trusted Max, but the notebook felt too important, too dangerous. Not here, she said. It's not safe. Max nodded, but he looked worried. Lila, I didn't come yesterday because my mom grounded me. She said I can't talk to you anymore, but I had to make sure you were okay. Lila's heart sank. She knew Max's mom didn't like her, but it still hurt. It's okay, she said, forcing a smile. You should listen to your mom. I don't want you in trouble. But I want to help, Max said, his voice fierce. You're my friend, Lila. And that book, it's like something from a superhero story. Lila couldn't help but smile for real this time. Max's excitement made her feel less alone. But before she could say anything, a shadow fell over them. She looked up and froze. A woman was standing there, her arms crossed. It was Sarah, Max's mom. Max, Sarah snapped. I told you to stay away from her. Max shrank back, but he didn't run. Mom, Lila's not bad. She's in trouble and I want to help. Sarah's eyes flicked to Lila, cold and sharp. You're the one from the video, aren't you? What are you doing with that thing? Are you putting my son in danger? Lila's mouth went dry. She wanted to explain, but how could she? She didn't even understand the notebook herself. I'd never hurt Max, she said quietly. He's been kind to me, that's all. Sarah grabbed Max's arm. We're going home now. She glared at Lila. Stay away from my son. As Sarah pulled Max away, he looked back at Lila, his eyes full of worry. Lila felt a lump in her throat. She'd lost her only friend, and the notebook was making everything worse. But she couldn't give up. Not now. That afternoon, Lila decided to take a risk. She needed to know more about the notebook, and sitting on the street wasn't helping. She remembered an old library a few blocks away, a quiet place she used to visit when she had a home. Maybe there was a book or a computer that could give her answers. The library was warm and smelled of old paper. Lila felt out of place, her torn clothes and messy hair drawing stares from the librarian. But she kept her head down and found a computer in the corner. She typed glowing notebook into the search bar, hoping for something, anything. Most of the results were news articles about her videos of the glowing book, people calling her a freak or a hero. But one result caught her eye. It was an old article, buried deep in the search, about a legend in Brightville. The article was short, but it sent chills down her spine. The Keeper's Book, it read. A myth from the city's founding days. They say a magical book chooses its keeper, glowing with golden light. The keeper must protect the book and uncover its truth, but dark forces will always hunt it. No one knows if the book is real, but some believe it holds the city's greatest secret. Lila's hands shook as she read. The Keeper's Book. Was that her notebook? And what was the city's secret? She needed more information, but the article was too old, and there were no other leads. As she left the library, the sky was turning dark. Lila felt watched, like eyes were following her every step. She hugged the notebook tighter, her mind racing. The legend, the men, the glowing figure, it was all real. But what did it mean for her? Lila was almost back to her alley when she heard Ida low hum, like the one from the notebook last night. She stopped, her heart racing. The sound was coming from her jacket. She pulled out the notebook, and sure enough, it was glowing again, faint, but growing brighter. Before she could react, a van screeched to a stop beside her. The door slid open, and the man in the suit stepped out, his smile cold and dangerous. Time's up, Lila, he said. Give me the book, or you won't like what happens next. Lila backed away, the notebook pulsing in her hands. The hum grew louder, and the light flared, brighter than ever. The man's smile faltered, but he didn't back down. Instead, he pulled something from his pocket, a small black device that hummed with its own dark energy. You think that light will save you? He said, stepping closer. You have no idea what you're up against. The notebook's light surged, and Lila felt a rush of power, like it was begging her to fight. But the man raised the device, and a wave of darkness shot toward her, cold and heavy. The golden light clashed with the darkness, and the air crackled with energy. Lila screamed, the notebook burning hot in her hands. What was happening? And would she survive this fight? The golden light from Lila's notebook clashed with the dark energy from the man's device, sparking like fireworks in the dim alley. The air buzzed with power, and Lila's hands burned as she gripped the notebook tighter. She didn't know what she was doing, but the book felt alive, guiding her. The man in the suit gritted his teeth. His face twisted with anger as he pushed the device forward, sending another wave of darkness toward her. Lila, stop fighting, he shouted. You can't win. That book belongs to us. Lila's heart raced. She wanted to run, to hide, but the notebook's light held her in place, like it was telling her to stand her ground. The glowing figure from the night before flickered in the air again, stronger this time, its form more solid. It raised a hand, and the dark energy shattered, dissolving into smoke. The man stumbled back, his device sparking in his hand. "No," he yelled, his voice desperate. "You don't know what you're doing." The glowing figure turned to Lila, and for the first time, she saw its facier, at least part of it. It was a woman, her eyes kind but fierce, like a mother protecting her child. The figure didn't speak, but Lila felt words in her mind. Trust the light. Protect the truth. Before Lila could respond, the man lunged forward, grabbing for the notebook. The glowing figure vanished, and Lila screamed, pulling the book away. The light flared brighter, knocking the man to the ground. The van's engine roared, and the driver shouted, "We gotta go! Now!" The man scrambled to his feet, glaring at Lila. "This isn't over," he spat, climbing into the van. The door slammed shut, and the van sped off, tires screeching. Lila stood there, shaking, the notebook still glowing faintly in her hands. The alley was quiet again, but her mind was screaming. Who was that man? What was the device? And what was the glowing woman? She sank to the ground, her back against the wall, trying to catch her breath. The notebook felt heavier now, like it was carrying a secret too big for her to hold. She opened it, her fingers trembling. The page with the strange message was still there. The light chooses its keeper. Trust it. Find the truth. But now, there was more. New words had appeared, in the same handwriting that wasn't quite hers. Lila's stomach twisted. The library? She'd been there just hours ago, but she hadn't found anything except that old article. What was the library's heart, and what key? She closed the notebook, her mind spinning. She couldn't stay in the alley, it wasn't safe. Those men would come back, and next time, they might bring something worse than that device. Leela spent the night moving, slipping through back streets and staying out of sight. She was exhausted, hungry, and scared, but the notebook's warmth kept her going. It was like a friend now, guiding her even when she didn't understand it. By morning, she'd made up her mind. She had to go back to the library. The message said the key was there, and she needed to find it before the men did. The library was quiet when she arrived, the air cool and dusty. The librarian gave her a suspicious look, but Lila kept her head down and headed to the back, where the older books were kept. The library's heart had to mean something important, maybe a hidden section or a special book. She scanned the shelves, her fingers brushing over worn spines. Most of the books were about history, myths, or the city's founding, nothing that screamed heart. Then she noticed something odd. A small, unmarked door was tucked behind a shelf, barely visible. It was old, its paint peeling, and it looked like no one had opened it in years. Lila's heart skipped a beat. Could this be it? She glanced around, no one was watching. She pushed the door, and it creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down. Lila hesitated. The stairs were dark, and the air smelled damp. But the notebook hummed softly under her jacket, like it was urging her forward. She took a deep breath and started down, the door clicking shut behind her. The stairs led to a small room, lit by a single flickering bulb. The walls were lined with shelves, but these books were different, ancient, their covers cracked, and their titles written in strange symbols. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on it sat a single book. It was small, like her notebook, but its cover was carved with golden designs that seemed to glow. Lila's breath caught. It looked so much like her notebook, but older, more powerful. She stepped closer, her hands shaking. Was this the key? Before she could touch it, the notebook in her jacket flared with light, and the book on the pedestal glowed in response. Words appeared in the air, just like on the street. "The keeper has come. Claim the key." Lila's heart pounded. She reached for the book, but as her fingers brushed its cover, the room shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a low rumble filled the air. "Lila!" a voice shouted. She spun around, her blood running cold. The man in the suit stood at the bottom of the stairs, his device glowing darkly in his hand. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said, stepping closer. "Give me both books, and I'll let you walk away." Lila clutched her notebook, her eyes darting to the glowing book on the pedestal. She didn't know what it was, but she knew she couldn't let him have it. The notebook's light surged, and the glowing woman appeared again, her form brighter than ever. The man froze, his face pale. "You can't stop us," he said, but his voice wavered. He raised the device, and dark energy shot toward the glowing woman. The light and darkness clashed, shaking the room. Lila grabbed the book from the pedestal, and the moment she touched it, a wave of energy exploded outward, knocking the man back. "Run!" The glowing woman's voice echoed in Lila's mind. Lila didn't think. She bolted up the stairs, both books in her arms, the room trembling behind her. She burst into the library, ignoring the librarian's shouts, and ran into the street. Her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. She had the key, but she also had more questions than ever. Lila hid in a park, tucked behind a cluster of trees. The two books sat in her lap, both glowing faintly. She was scared to open them, worried they'd draw attention, or worse, bring the man back. Her mind raced with everything that had happened. The glowing woman, the strange room, the man's device. It was too much. She felt like she was in a story, but she didn't know if she was the hero or the victim. As the sun set, she heard footsteps. Her heart leaped into her throat, but then a familiar voice called out, "Lila, are you here?" It was Max. Lila peeked out from the trees, relief flooding her. Max stood there, his backpack slung over one shoulder, looking worried. "Max," she whispered, waving him over. "How did you find me?" "I saw you running from the library," he said, crouching beside her. "I was on my way home and... Lila, what's going on? You looked scared." Lila hesitated. She didn't want to drag Max into this, but he was already here, and she needed someone to trust. "It's the notebook," she said, pulling it out. "And this?" She showed him the second book, its golden designs glinting in the fading light. Max's eyes widened. "Whoa, are those magic?" "I think so," Lila said. "But some bad people want them. They've been chasing me, Max. I don't know what to do." Max looked at the books, then at Lila. "You need help," he said firmly. "I'm not letting you do this alone." Lila's throat tightened. She wanted to tell him to go home, to stay safe, but his determination made her feel stronger. "Okay," she said, "but we have to be careful. Those men, they're dangerous." Max nodded, his face serious. "What's in the new book? Did you open it?" Lila shook her head. "Not yet. I'm scared of what it might do." "Let's look together," Max said. "Maybe it'll tell us what to do next." Lila took a deep breath and opened the second book. Its pages were filled with strange symbols, but as she stared, the symbols shifted, forming words she could read. Max frowned. "The city's heart? What's that?" "I don't know," Lila said. "But I think we need to find out." That night, Lila and Max stayed in the park, hidden in the shadows. Lila told Max everything: the glowing woman, the man in the suit, the library's secret room. Max listened, his eyes wide, like he was hearing the best story ever. But it wasn't a story, it was real, and it was dangerous. As they talked, Lila noticed something strange. The notebook and the second book were glowing faintly, their lights pulsing in sync. She opened the notebook, and new words had appeared. The shadow grows stronger. Protect the key at all costs. Lila's stomach dropped. The shadow. Was that the man in the suit? Or something worse? She looked at Max to be continued. Lila's eyes locked on the words in her notebook. The shadow grows stronger. Protect the key at all costs. Her hands shook as she closed the book, the faint glow of both the notebook and the second book pulsing in the dark park. Max sat beside her, his face pale but determined. The night was quiet, but Lila felt a weight in the air, like a storm was coming. "What's the shadow?" Max whispered, his voice barely audible. "Is it that guy in the suit?" "I think so," Lila said, her voice tight. "Or maybe something bigger. The notebook keeps talking about the truth, and the second book said it's in the city's heart. We need to figure out what that means." Max nodded, his eyes flicking to the glowing books. "Okay, but we can't stay here. If those guys are after you, they'll find us. We need a plan." Lila's heart warmed at Max's bravery. He was just a kid, but he was ready to face danger for her. "You're right," she said. "We need to move, and we need to find the city's heart before they do." Max thought for a moment, then snapped his fingers. "The city's heart? What if it's the old clock tower? My teacher said it's the oldest building in Brightville, right in the center of the city. Maybe that's it." Lila's eyes widened. The clock tower was a landmark, its huge face visible from almost anywhere in the city. She'd passed it countless times, but she'd never thought much about it. Could it hold the answers she needed? "It's worth a try," she said. "Let's go." They packed up, tucking the books under Lila's jacket. The park was dark, the only light coming from street lamps in the distance. As they crept through the trees, Lila's senses were on high alert. Every rustle made her jump. Every shadow looked like the man in the suit. The notebook hummed softly, like it was trying to warn her, but it didn't glow not yet. When they reached the edge of the park, Max grabbed her arm. "Wait," he whispered, pointing. Across the street, a black van was parked, its engine idling. Lila's stomach dropped. It was the same van from the alley. "They found us," she breathed, pulling Max back into the shadows. "How did they know where we were?" Max's face was grim. "Maybe they're tracking the books. You said they glow. Maybe they give off some kind of signal." Lila's mind raced. If Max was right, the books weren't just powerful, they were a beacon, drawing danger to her. But she couldn't give them up. The glowing woman, the messages, the legend, they all said she was the keeper. She had to protect the books, no matter what. "We need to lose them," Lila said. "Come on." They slipped through the park, staying low and moving fast. The van didn't follow, but Lila knew it wouldn't be long before the men caught up. They had to get to the clock tower and fast. The clock tower loomed over Brightville's central square, its stone walls weathered but strong. The huge clock face glowed softly in the moonlight, its hands pointing to midnight. The square was empty, the shops and cafes closed for the night. Lila and Max hid behind a bench, watching for any sign of the van or the men. "It's creepy," Max said, his voice low. "You sure this is the place?" "No," Lila admitted, "but it's our best guess. The books keep talking about the city's heart, and this is the oldest part of Brightville. If there's a secret here, we'll find it." Max nodded, but he looked nervous. "What if those guys show up?" Lila squeezed his shoulder. "We'll be careful. And the books, they've protected me before. I think they'll help us again. They crept toward the tower, staying in the shadows. The main door was locked, a heavy chain wrapped around the handles. Lila's heart sank. Now what? She muttered. Max grinned. Leave it to me. He pulled a paperclip from his pocket and bent it into a makeshift lockpick. I saw this in a movie once, he said, kneeling by the lock. Lila raised an eyebrow. You sure about this? Nope, Max said cheerfully, but he worked at the lock, twisting the paperclip. After a few tense minutes, there was a click, and the chain fell loose. Max pumped his fist. Yes. Lila couldn't help but smile. You're full of surprises, kid. They slipped inside, closing the door behind them. The tower was dark, the air thick with dust. A spiral staircase wound upward, disappearing into the shadows. The notebook hummed louder now, and the second book's glow pulsed in sync. Lila's skin tingled. They were close to something big. As they climbed the stairs, the air grew colder. The walls were covered in faded carvings, symbols like the ones in the second book. Lila's heart raced. This wasn't just a clock tower, it was a place of secrets. At the top, they found a small room with a single window overlooking the city. In the center was a stone pedestal, and on it sat a crystal orb, glowing faintly with golden light. Lila's breath caught. It looked like the light from her notebook, but stronger, more alive. Is that the truth? Max whispered, his eyes wide. Before Lila could answer, the notebook flared, and the second book's glow matched it. The orb pulsed, and words appeared in the air. The keeper has found the heart. The truth is near. Lila stepped toward the orb, her hands shaking. She didn't know what it was, but she felt drawn to it, like it was calling her. The notebook's light surged, and the glowing woman appeared again, her form clearer than ever. She was tall, her face kind but fierce, her eyes locked on Lila. You are the keeper, her voice echoed, soft but powerful. The orb holds Brightville's truth. Protect it, or the shadow will consume all. Lila's mouth went dry. What truth? She asked. And who's the shadow? The woman's eyes saddened. The truth is, the city's pasta power hidden long ago. The shadow seeks to control it. You must. Her words cut off as the room shook. A loud crash echoed from below, and footsteps thundered up the stairs. Lila's heart stopped. The men were here. The man in the suit burst into the room, his device glowing darkly. Behind him were three others, their faces hard and their hands holding similar devices. The air crackled with dark energy, and Lila felt a chill, like the warmth of the books was fading. You've led us right to it, the man said, his smile cold. The orb, the books, all of it. Hand them over, Lila, and I might let the kid live. Max stepped in front of Lila, his fists clenched. Leave her alone, he shouted. Lila pulled him back, her heart pounding. Stay behind me, she whispered. She faced the man, the books clutched to her chest. Why do you want them? What's the truth? The man laughed, but it was bitter. You think you're special? The keeper? You're just a tool, Lila. The orb holds power, real power. The kind that can control this city. Maybe the world. And we're not letting a homeless nobody stand in our way. Lila's stomach twisted. Power? Was that what this was about? She looked at the orb, its light pulsing softly. The glowing woman's words echoed in her mind. Protect it, or the shadow will consume all. I won't let you have it, Lila said, her voice steady despite her fear. The notebook glowed brighter, and the second book matched it. The glowing woman appeared again, her light pushing back the darkness from the men's devices. The man's smile faded. Fine, he said. We'll take it by force. He raised his device, and dark energy shot toward Lila. The glowing woman blocked it, but the force shook the room. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the orb wobbled on its pedestal. Lila grabbed Max's hand and dove behind the pedestal, her mind racing. They were trapped, outnumbered, and out of time. "Max, we need to get the orb out of here," she whispered. "If they get it, it's over." Max nodded, his eyes wide but brave. "I've got an idea. Keep them busy." Before Lila could stop him, Max started out, grabbing a loose stone from the floor and throwing it at the men. It hit one in the shoulder, and he cursed, turning toward Max. Lila's heart leaped into her throat, but she saw her chance. She grabbed the orb, its light warm in her hands, and tucked it under her jacket with the books. The glowing woman clashed with the men's devices, the room shaking with every blast. Lila ran for the stairs, shouting, "Max, come on!" Max dodged a blast of dark energy and sprinted after her. They raced down the spiral stairs, the men's shouts echoing behind them. The notebook and orb glowed brighter, like they were guiding her. But as they reached the bottom, the door burst open, and two more men blocked their way. Lila froze, her heart sinking. They were surrounded. "Give it up, Lila," the man in the suit called from the stairs, his voice smug. "There's nowhere to run." Lila's mind raced. The books and orb were burning hot now, their light spilling out from her jacket. The glowing woman appeared again, weaker but still fighting. Lila felt a surge of courage. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was the keeper, and she had to protect the truth. "Max, hold my hand," she whispered. He grabbed her hand, his grip tight. Lila closed her eyes, focusing on the light. The notebook hummed, and the orb pulsed, their energy merging. She didn't know what she was doing, but she trusted the books, trusted the glowing woman. The light exploded outward, a wave of golden energy that knocked the men back. The door blasted open, and Lila and Max ran into the square, the light shielding them. The men shouted, but their voices faded as Lila and Max sprinted into the night, the books and orb glowing like stars. They didn't stop until they reached an abandoned lot, panting and shaking. Lila checked the books and orb. They were safe, their light dimming but still alive. Max grinned, his face sweaty. "That was awesome," he said. "You're like a superhero." Lila managed a weak smile, but her heart was heavy. They'd escaped, but the men wouldn't stop, and the truth, whatever it was still out of reach. As they caught their breath, the notebook glowed again, and Lila opened it. New words appeared, chilling her to the bone. "The shadow knows the keeper's heart. The final test is near." Before she could process it, a scream echoed from the distance. Lila's blood ran cold. It was a voice she knew, Sarah, Max's mom. Max's face went white. "Mom!" he shouted, starting to run. Lila grabbed his arm, her heart racing. "Max, wait! It could be a trap." But Max pulled free, his eyes wild. "I have to help her. She's my mom." Lila's stomach twisted. The notebook's warning, the scream, it wasn't a coincidence. The men had found Sarah, and they were using her to get to Lila. She clutched the books and orb, her mind screaming. If she went after Max, she'd be walking into danger. But if she didn't, she'd lose her only friend and maybe his mom. The light pulsed, and the glowing woman's voice whispered, "The keeper's heart will decide." Lila took a deep breath and ran after Max, the books and orb glowing in her arms. What was waiting for them? And would she be strong enough to face it? Lila sprinted after Max, her heart pounding as the books and orb glowed under her jacket. The scream Sarah's scream chode in her mind, sharp and desperate. Max was ahead, his small figure darting through the dark streets, driven by fear for his mom. Lila's legs burned, but she pushed harder, the notebook's warning ringing in her ears. The shadow knows the keeper's heart. The final test is near. This was a trap. She was sure of it, but she couldn't let Max face it alone. The streets of Brightville were quiet, the moonlight casting long shadows. Lila caught up to Max just as he reached a narrow alley near the city's edge. He stopped, his chest heaving, his eyes wide with panic. "Mom!" he shouted, his voice breaking. Lila grabbed his shoulder, pulling him back. "Max, wait! We don't know what's out there. Stay with me." Max's face was streaked with tears. "But she's in trouble. I heard her." Lila's stomach twisted. She wanted to protect Max, but she couldn't ignore Sarah's scream. The glowing woman's words echoed. The keeper's heart will decide. Her heart was telling her to save Sarah, to keep Max safe, no matter the cost. She nodded, squeezing Max's hand. "Okay, but we stick together. No running off." They crept into the alley, the books humming softly. The air felt heavy, like a storm was about to break. At the end of the alley was an old warehouse, its windows shattered and its door hanging open. Another scream came from inside, weaker this time. Max started forward, but Lila held him back, her senses screaming danger. The notebook glowed brighter, and the orb pulsed in sync. Lila opened the notebook, her hands shaking. New words appeared. "The truth awaits. Face the shadow, or all is lost." Her throat tightened. This was it, the final test. "Lila, come on," Max whispered, tugging her arm. She took a deep breath, clutching the books and orb. "Stay close," she said, and they slipped into the warehouse. The warehouse was dark, the air thick with dust and the smell of rust. Broken crates and old machinery loomed like ghosts in the shadows. Lila's heart raced as she and Max moved deeper, their footsteps echoing. The books glowed faintly, lighting their path, but it also made them a target. A low laugh broke the silence, chilling Lila to the bone. The man in the suit stepped out from behind a crate, his device glowing darkly in his hand. Behind him were 6 others, their faces hard, their own devices humming with dark energy. In the center of the group was Sarah, her hands tied, her face pale but defiant. She saw Max and gasped. "Max, no, get out of here." "Mom!" Max cried, starting forward, but Lila pulled him back. "Stay calm," she whispered, her eyes locked on the man. "Let me handle this." The man's smile was cold. "You're predictable, Lila. I knew you'd come for the boy's mother. The keeper's heart always so easy to manipulate." Lila's blood ran cold. The notebook's warning was about her heart, her need to protect Max and Sarah. They'd used it against her. "Let her go," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "This is between you and me." The man laughed. "Oh, it's much bigger than you. The orb, the books, they're the key to Brightville's power. A power buried by the city's founders, hidden in that clock tower for centuries. With it, we can control everything: money, people, the future. And you're just a nobody who got in the way." Lila's mind raced. The truth, the city's past, the power in the orb. It was all connected. The glowing woman, the legend, the keeper's role. She wasn't just holding books, she was guarding something that could change the world. "Give me the books and the orb," the man said, stepping closer, "or the woman dies." Sarah shook her head, her voice fierce. "Don't do it, Lila. They're evil." The man raised his device, and dark energy crackled toward Sarah. Lila didn't think. She thrust the notebook forward, and its golden light flared, blocking the darkness. The glowing woman appeared, stronger than ever, her form towering over the warehouse. The men stumbled back, their devices sparking. "You cannot have the truth," the woman's voice boomed. "The keeper will protect it." The man's face twisted with rage. "Enough!" he shouted, and he pressed a button on his device. A wave of dark energy exploded outward, stronger than before. The glowing woman faltered, her light flickering. Lila screamed as the force knocked her back, the books and orbs slipping from her hands. Max dove for the orb, grabbing it before the men could. "Lila!" he yelled, tossing it back to her. She caught it, the light surging through her. The notebook and second book glowed on the ground, and Lila felt their power, like they were part of her. The man lunged for the books, but the glowing woman blocked him, her light clashing with his darkness. The warehouse shook, crates falling, the roof groaning. Lila knew they were running out of time. She had to end this now. Lila stood, the orb in one hand, the notebook in the other. The second book lay at her feet, its light pulsing. She didn't know what to do, but she trusted the light, trusted the glowing woman. "Tell me what to do," she shouted. The woman's voice filled her mind. "Unite the light, reveal the truth." Lila's heart pounded. Unite the light? She looked at the orb, the notebook, the second book. They were all glowing, their lights merging. She knelt, placing the orb between the books. The lights flared, blending into a single golden beam that shot upward, piercing the warehouse roof. The beam lit up the night sky, visible across Brightville. Words formed in the air, huge and golden. The truth is free. The city's heart is its people. Lila's breath caught. The truth wasn't power for control, it was the city's spirit, its hope, its kindness. The founders had hidden it to protect it from people like the man in the suit, and Lila was its keeper. The man screamed, his device overloading. The dark energy shattered, and his men fell, their devices sparking and dying. The glowing woman grew brighter, her light washing over the warehouse. The man in the suit collapsed, his face pale, his power gone. Lila ran to Sarah, untying her hands. Sarah grabbed Max, hugging him tight. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "I was wrong about you, Lila. You saved us." Lila's throat tightened. She wanted to say something, but the glowing woman's voice stopped her. The woman's form began to fade, her light softening. Lila felt a pang of loss. She'd never know who the woman was, but she'd been her guide, her strength. "Thank you," Lila whispered. The woman smiled, then vanished. The books and orbs stopped glowing, their power spent. The warehouse was quiet, the danger gone. The police arrived soon after, drawn by the light in the sky. They arrested the man in the suit and his men, who were too weak to fight. Lila handed over the books and orb, explaining as best she could. The officers were confused, but they saw the truth in the sky, felt the change in the city. Brightville was different, now kinder, warmer, like its heart had been woken up. Sarah took Lila's hand, her eyes full of gratitude. "Come home with us," she said. "You're not alone anymore." Lila hesitated, years of being invisible weighing on her. But Max grinned, grabbing her other hand. "Yeah, Lila, you're family now." Tears stung Lila's eyes. She nodded, her heart full. The books were safe, the truth was free, and she wasn't invisible anymore. She was Lila, the keeper, the woman who'd changed Brightville. As they walked into the night, the city glowed softly, its heart alive. Lila smiled, knowing she'd found her place, her purpose, and her home. Months later, Lila sat in a small apartment, a gift from Sarah and the city. She had a job at the library now, shelving books and telling stories to kids like Max. The notebook was on her desk, its pages blank again, but Lila didn't need it anymore. Its magic had done its work. Max burst in, his backpack bouncing. "Lila, ready for story time?" Lila laughed, grabbing her coat. Always, kid. They walked to the library, the clock tower in the distance, its face shining. Brightville was brighter too, its people kinder, its heart strong. And Lila, once ignored, was its hero. The end.